Okay guys, today is factoring GCF plus X method day 2. So we're going to factor out the GCF and then continue factoring with the X method. But today we're going to do different signs. Where yesterday you had plus for the last sign, this one's going to be a minus. So first you must factor out the GCF, greatest common factor, and then factor using that X method that we've been doing. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to look here and see what our GCF is. So my first one, sorry, I don't know if you can see that went crazy for me there for a second. We have 7, so the only thing that multiplies to give me 7 is 7 and 1. And then x, because x squared. 14 is 2 and 7, x. And then 21 is 3 and 7. So we look to see what's in common. So I look here, I see that there is a 7 in all of them. A 7's in this one, a 7's in this one, and a 7's in this one. So I keep a 7 out front. And then I look to see if anything else is in common. Well, a 1 is going to be in all of them, so there's not really anything to take out there. And there's an x in the first two, but not in the third one. So our GCF is just 7. And then we rewrite the rest of it with what's left over. So we have x times x, which is x squared. We have 2 times x, so minus 2x. And then we have 3 minus 3. Okay, so we get to do our magic x. Multiplies to give me negative 3. Adds to give me negative 2. So remember, this tells me, let me do that in a different color. When this one is a negative, this tells me different signs. So I have 1 and 3, so negative 1 and 3 will give me negative 3, or 1 and negative 3. And then we want to see which one of these add to give me negative 2. 1 plus 3, negative 1 plus 3 is a positive 2. 1 plus negative 3 is a negative 2. We see that's going to be the answer I want, 1 and negative 3. And then we're going to rewrite this, 7 parentheses x plus 1 parentheses x minus 3 for our factored form. So GCF out front, and then our two factors for right here go in the second part of the x. Okay, I see the flaw in what I did because I made this really big, and then number 2 doesn't have any spots, so I'm going to pause it and then readjust my page. Okay, this is a little bit better, so we're going to find the GCF here. So here we have 2xxx plus 8 is 2 times 4, which is 2 times 2, and then just xx, and then 64. It's going to be 2 and 32, 2 and 16, 2 and 8, 2 and 4, 2 and 2, and just x. So let's go look and see what's in common. So our first one has a 2. So we see we have a 2 here. We have a 2 here. We have a 2 here. So our 2 comes out front. Okay. We have no other coefficients, so none of the other numbers matter. Now we're going to see the x's. We have 1x here. We have 1x here. The last one only has 1x. It's the most restrictive. So we have an x here. And then we're going to put together what we have on the inside. So things that were not used now. So our GCF is 2x. And then the stuff that wasn't used was x times x, which is x squared. Here we have 2 times 2, which is 4 times x. So plus 4x. Okay. And then over here, we have 2 times 2, which is 4, times 2, which is 8, times 2, which is 16, times 2, which is 32. So minus 32. So again, this tells me different signs, diff signs. So that means plus and minus. And this tells me, because it's a plus, bigger number is positive. So what multiplies to give me 32? So 1 and 32, 2 and 16. Okay. 3 doesn't go into it, does 4. So 4 and what? 4 and 8. 5 doesn't do it. 6 doesn't do it. 7 shouldn't do it. So we're back at 8. So it's just these three. So with them being different signs, either the first number could be negative or the second number could be negative. We're going to add 31, 14, 4, negative 31, negative 14, negative 4. So the one we're looking for is where we have the positive 4, where that occurs is right here. I'm sorry, guys, I did not do the magic X yet. Let me write it out. So multiply. So multiplies to give me negative 32, adds to give me 4. And then that would be negative 4 and 8. So our final answer, I'm going to write it out over here, can be written as 2x parentheses x minus 4, x plus 8. Okay, our next one up, we're going to look for that GCF again. So 3 is just going to be 3x, x, x. 9 is going to be 3 and 3, x, x. 54 is 2 and 27. Let me double check that. I think that's true. 54 divided by 2, 27. 27 divided by 3 is 9. 9 divided by 3 is 3. And we have just x. So we're going to look to see what's in common. So we see we have a 3 in the first one. Ooh, that's not what I wanted to do. So here. So we see we have a 3 in our first one. 3 here, a 3 here, and a 3 here. So part of my GCF is going to be a 3. Okay, and then I'd look to see if there's anything else in common. There's no other coefficients in common, so we're moving on to the x's. The variables, we have 1x here, 1x here. And there's only 1x over there, so we know there's no more variables to go to because there's no more x's in the third term. And then remember, we now write whatever is remaining into our parentheses. So our first group up, we have x times x, which is x squared. Here we have 3x, so minus 3x, minus, and then we have 3 times 3, which is 9, times 2, which is 18. Okay, so let's do our magic x. Okay, multiplies to give me negative 18, adds to give me negative 3. This tells me different signs. This tells me bigger number, negative. And then we're going to see what multiplies to give us 18. So 18 is 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. 4 doesn't go into it, 5 doesn't go into it, and then we're back at 6. So we don't need to do any more. One of the numbers has to be negative, so our first group will put the first number negative. Even though we know the bigger number has to be negative, which tells me none of those are going to work out. So these are the ones I'm really interested in. Okay, so let's add 17, 7, 3, negative 17, negative 7, negative 3. So what I'm interested in is that one at the bottom, that one. So 3, negative 6. Okay, so I can rewrite this as 3x parentheses x plus 3, x minus 6. Okay. Next one up, we have x cubed, which is just x times x times x, plus 11 is just 11 times 1. So we have just 11 xx. And then over here we have 12, 2 and 6, 2 and 3, and then x. So we see if there's any coefficients in common. Well, the first one doesn't even have a coefficient other than 1, so we're not concerned about the numbers at all. So then we go on to our x's. The last one only has one x, so that means all we can do is take out an x. So our GCF is going to be x. And then remember, now we write what's left over. So x times x, which is x squared. And then we have 11 times 1. So that's 11. We're left with just an x there, so 11x. And then back here we have no variable, so it's just the 3 times 2, which is 6, times 2, which is 12. So we're looking for what multiplies to give me negative 12, adds to give me 11, This tells me different signs. This tells me the bigger number is positive. Okay, so 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. And then one number is going to have to be negative. This tells us our bigger number has to be positive. In this case, we've already covered that, but just to make sure that you guys see what's going on, I'm going to have the other half of this too, negative 12, 2 and negative 6, 3 and negative 4. We're going to add down. Well, a negative 1 plus 12 is 11. We already found our answer, but I'll go through 4, 1, negative 11, negative 4, negative 1. So that means negative 1 and 12. So we can write this as x parentheses x minus 1, x plus 12. Okay, we only have 2 more examples. Okay, so we'll finish these 2 up, and then you have some time to do your homework. So we'll look to see what our GCF is. Our first one is just x to the 4th, so that's x times x times x times x. Our next one is 3x times x times x. And then we know 10, it has to factor in at 2 and 5. And then x. So we see there's no coefficient on the first term, so we don't care about the numbers. Now we're going to move into the x's. Well, there's an x in the first one, there's an x in the second one, there's an x in the third one, there's an x in the first one, there's an x in the second one, there's an x in the third one. So what we were able to take out was an x squared for my GCF. And then what doesn't have a buddy stays locked up. So x times x is x squared. 3x. Negative 2 times 5. Negative 10. Okay, we're going to magic x this. So multiplies to give me negative 10. Adds to give me negative 3. Okay, this tells me different signs. This tells me bigger number is negative. So we're going to look at what multiplies to give me 10. Well, 10 is 1 and 10, 2 and 5. That's the only ways for us to get it. So it could be negative 1, negative 10, negative 2, negative 5. We know the bigger number has to be negative. Well, sorry, my video stopped recording. So neither the 1 or the 2 are the bigger number. So we really know it has to be one of these, 1 and negative 10, or 2 and negative 5. But again, I'll show you all of them. So negative 1 and 10 is 9. Negative 2 plus 5 is 3. 1 plus negative 10 is negative 9. 2 plus negative 5 is negative 3. That's the one we're interested in. So 2, negative 5. So here we go. We're going to write this out. X squared, x plus 2, x minus 5. And then we circle it. And we're done. Okay, our last one for today. We're going to factor these out. When we know 8 goes to 2 and 4. 4 goes to 2 and 2. X plus 2 and 12. 2 and 6. 2 and 3. X. Okay, and then 320. Whew, let's try this one. So minus 2 and 160. 2 and 80. 2 and 40. 2 and 20. 2 and 10. I'm running out of space. 2 and 5. Okay, so let's see what we have in common. We have a 2 in our first term, a 2 in our second term, a 2 in our third term, a 2 comes out. We have a 2 in our first term, 2 in our second term, a 2 in our third term, a 2 comes out. We have a 2 in the first term, a 2 in the second term, a 2 in the third term, a 2 comes out. Okay, and that's as much as our coefficient can be taken out because that's all that's in the first term. All the rest of them have more, but that's the smallest one. And then we look for our x's. We have an x in the first term, we have an x in the second term, but there's no x in the third term. So I can undo that, subtract that, and I can just multiply this out. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So 8 is going to go on the outside. What doesn't have a buddy stays locked up on the inside. So x times x becomes x squared plus 3 times x, which is 3x. And last but not least, we have 2 times 5, which is 10, times 2 is 20, times 2 is 40. So minus 40. So we're going to do our magic x. Multiplies to give me Negative 40 adds to give me 3. So we have 1 and 40. Let me do my thing. Different signs. Bigger number, positive this time, because it's a plus there. So 1 and 40, 2 and 20. 3 doesn't do it, but 4 and 10. Okay, 5 and 8. 9 doesn't do it. And then we're back at 10. All right, 8 and then 10. Okay, so one of them is going to have to be negative. Let's tell us our biggest number has to be positive. So by putting the negatives on the smaller number, technically that should work out. But you know me, I've been showing you all of them the whole time. 1 and 40, 1 and negative 40, 2 and negative 20, 4 and negative 10, 5 and negative 8. So let's go through. Negative 1 and 40 is 39. Negative 2 and 20 is 18. Negative 4 and 10 is 6. Negative 5 and 8 is 3. That's the one I'm interested in. Negative 5 and 8. This is going to be negative 39. It's going to be negative 18, negative 6, negative 3. We keep that GCF outside. X, or 8 times x minus 5, x plus 8. Voila! That's our end. So please make sure you're asking questions if you guys have them. Thanks, guys. Bye.